What's goody? Hey man, so last night the NBA All-Star rosters for this year's All-Star game, which is in a few weeks now, I believe, have just been released. The full rosters just came out last night. So let's go ahead, let's look at them, let's react to everything. I honestly haven't seen the full rosters yet. I just pulled this up. I just pulled it up to make sure that everything was filled out and that was it. I haven't seen the full rosters. I did see a couple of things that were a few more controversial things when I woke up this morning and looked at my notifications. But since that, I literally just went right to recording this video after I took the dog out. So let's see. So the Eastern Conference starters, Giannis, JB, both of the JBs, Cade Cunningham and Tyrese Maxey. I think that was absolutely phenomenal job by the NBA. You see three guards, which is something you don't often see, but it's positionless. I think these five players have been the five best players in the Eastern Conference this season. So I'm not mad at this at all. With recent play, there are some guys that you could maybe say, not to the starters, but to the reserves. With recent play, I feel like there's going to be some guys who I'm going to look at and yeah, like Cat. And I felt like this was going to happen to me, but it's just like with the way the Hornets have been playing, you could maybe try to argue for me like a Con Knipple All-Star over a Karl Anthony Towns because I felt like Cat was going to make an All-Star, and that's why I was expecting to say that with recent play, I was going to expect to say at least one reserve here could be knocked out. I don't think Cat's been good this season. I think as a guy that had a lot of that was super high on the Knicks offense going into the season, that was high on the Knicks team going into the season, as a guy that I thought they would win the Eastern Conference going into the season. I think they and Karl Anthony Towns in particular have been extremely disappointing to me this season, and that's why I since the beginning of the season, I brought up that idea of a Giannis trade in the beginning of the season, and since then it's something I've continued to talk about and continue to bring up as those talks get more real and real, because I just don't like what Cat's been doing for New York this year. And granted, he was good last year, and we know what the track record of Karl Anthony Towns is. And I'm not mad at the All-Star selection, don't get me wrong, right? Like, you want to sit here and you want to tell me that the New York Knicks deserve two All-Stars, even though none of these other teams got two All-Stars aside for the Cavs, who are the one seed. I have a hard time believing that. But then it's like I go through the Eastern Conference, and it's like, unless you're going to tell me one of the guys from Orlando is going to make it or Con Knipple, there's not really anybody out there out east who I would really put in this All-Star game over Karl Anthony Towns necessarily, because I don't think there's anybody on his own team that I'll put in there over him aside from Jalen Brunson. So I mean, yeah, I don't think there's anything too bad here. I love that Scotty Barnes got it. I was intrigued to see if it was going to be Scotty Barnes and Brandon Ingram. I didn't expect it to be. But I mean, hold on. I don't know. I don't love he is averaging 23 and 11. And I mean, Norman Powell, I think, deserves to be an All-Star, especially, he's on a 7th seed. I think he definitely deserves to be an All-Star. I think Norman Powell's been hooping this season. I did think they were only going to get one, and I did think it was going to be him over Bam. You could argue that Brandon Ingram could be in here. I mean, Pascal Siakam's on a 14 seed. That's always a thing. I personally believe Pascal Siakam deserves to be on this team. I think anybody that's been watching basketball understands that Pascal Siakam has been very good this year. However, giving an All-Star nod to a 14 seed when there's other guys like a Con Knipple, who's a rookie, who's been balling this season, who's like averaging damn near 20 points on damn near 50, 40, 90. He might still be 50, 40, 90. Yeah, I mean, that you could argue that he could be up in there. Pause. Wow, pause. You could argue that Brandon Ingram, who I believe still leads the Raptors in scoring, and if not, he's very close behind Scotty Barnes, but I believe he still leads the Raptors in scoring, because I believe Brandon Ingram's averaging like 21. Yeah, he's averaging 21.9. Yeah, so Brandon Ingram's still our leading scorer. It's a 4 seed. You're telling me that the Knicks get two, and we have no conversation for two? I definitely think you could argue that you could put a Brandon Ingram in here over like a Pascal. One of these guys at the end, I think you could argue them over. Donovan Mitchell absolutely deserves to be here. It's a shame he can't be a starter, but I just think these guys have been so insane this season. Donovan Mitchell has been too, though. Jalen Duren slowed down since his insane start at the beginning of the year, especially when he was hooping when Cade went out, but still definitely deserving of this All-Star. I have no problem with that. Again, Scotty Barnes, best player on the Raptors, no problem with that at all. He's been doing some phenomenal things this season, and his defense, bro. I think Scotty Barnes right now might be the most, on both sides of the ball, I think he's probably the most versatile two-way player in basketball. I think he just does so much on the court, on both ends of the court, and he can be so versatile with it, man. If Scotty Barnes could ever just become, it's never going to happen. I'm not trying to say it should happen, but like imagine with the 40%, shooting 40% from 3, shooting 38% from 3 on 5 attempts. It would be insane. It's never going to happen. Western Conference starters. Again, no problems here. We knew this. Steph, Luka, Shea, Jokic, Victor Wembanyama. Come on. I don't have anything to say about this, but this is where we get into it. Okay. So the first thing I'm peeping is LeBron did make it. LeBron's averages are higher than I thought they were. I did not think LeBron was averaging 22 points per game this year. But I think LeBron. Listen, I don't think LeBron deserves it based off of his body of work as an NBA player this season. But here is what I will say: we saw Kobe Bryant get an All-Star nod in the last year of his career. We saw similar things happen with Dwayne Wade, Tim Duncan, Dirk Nowitzki, Kevin Garnett. With all these legends when I was growing up, we saw these guys get respect, get all-star nods late in their career, some of them even in the last year of their career, if you're like a Dirk or Kobe. I think even Duncan might have did that. Because the NBA respected them that much and because they were still borderline enough. You know what I'm saying? They were still respected enough. They were ending legendary 20-year careers. Two of those guys, Dirk and Kobe, with the same team for the entirety of their career. They were legendary. So I don't really understand this whole uproar about the LeBron James getting an All-Star nod thing, because to me, we've seen this throughout the entirety of NBA history, at least in recent NBA history, at least in my lifetime in NBA history. So I don't really understand why we're vilifying the NBA, trying to honor and trying to respect the guy who is maybe in the last year of what is the greatest career of all time. Trying to get him to cap that off with his 22nd straight All-Star appearance, yeah, that's okay to me. I don't think, because first of all, the thing is, it's happened before. Second of all, this last All-Star period, you're not going to look at LeBron getting it or not getting it and be like, damn, that just puts Michael Jordan ahead of him now. Like, come on, bro. It's not that big of a deal. Anyway, and then who were you going to put in there over him? You were going to put Sengun in there over him. You were going to maybe try to put, going to try to put either Sengun, Kawhi, maybe Lauri Markkanen. You were going to try to put one of these guys in here. I'll argue against each and every one of them in a second, and then I'll argue for each and every one of them in a second, because my thing to me is LeBron James is inarguable here. I think this is a guy, like, again, he is potentially in the last year of what is the greatest career of all time for me. We've seen this happen throughout NBA history. I'm not even the biggest LeBron fan. I'm a way bigger Kobe or Steph Curry fan than I am a LeBron fan. But when I'm looking at it, I'm just like, come on, bro. Like, why are we sitting here trying to act like this is they're the devil for doing this? Now, before I get too deep into this, here's what I'll say. Devin Booker, Anthony Edwards, Kevin Durant, inarguable for me. These three right here go nowhere on this list for me. If you want to try to argue Sengun, if you want to try to argue Kawhi Leonard, it's got to be, you're either kicking off Jamal Murray, Chet Holmgren, and Deni Avdija. Here's what I'll say. I think Jamal Murray stays. And here's why. I understand the playing with Nikola Jokic thing, but did y'all see over the last 4 to 6 weeks, however long, I think it was like 4 or 5 weeks, however long Nikola Jokic was out? Did y'all see how the Denver Nuggets were playing? Even when Nikola Jokic was playing and Cam Johnson couldn't hit the broadside of a barn for the first month and a half of the season, did y'all see how Jamal Murray was playing? When Aaron Gordon and Christian Brown were out and it was just Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic, did y'all see how Jamal Murray is playing? Granted, just Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic is a whole hell of a lot more than a lot of teams have, but still. Jamal Murray's been hooping this year. This is a guy that has been a borderline all-star for the entirety of his career. Now the Western Conference has opened up a little bit. He's averaging 25.5 points per game. He's had 3 to 4 starters out at a time this season and has still been hooping, still been getting his numbers, still been winning games on top of everything else. And that's including with 4 to 6 weeks of Nikola Jokic being out. I think Jamal Murray stays here for me just for that reason alone. Now, you want to argue between Chet and Deni and Alperen Sengun and Kawhi Leonard. Here's what I'll say. I believe Kawhi Leonard should be on this list. And I think the person who is last on this list for me is Chet Holmgren. He's the second best player on the best team, sure, but the gap between him and number one is insane. It's not like we're up here where the only team that got 2 was like all I'll say is the gap between Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Chet Holmgren is bigger than the gaps between Jalen Brunson and Karl-Anthony Towns, and it's bigger than the gap between Cade Cunningham and Jalen Duren. So I would say that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander has far and away been like it's without Cade Cunningham, the Pistons won with Jalen Duren. Without Nikola Jokic, the Nuggets won with Jamal Murray. Without Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, the Thunder wouldn't win a game. With Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, even with the injuries they already have, they still struggle to win some of these games, and they thought they were gonna beat the Warriors 73-9 record. Chet Holmgren, for the entirety of the season, we've been talking about how Shai's been out there having been Superman. They just haven't had enough help scoring wise for him, especially in the clutch. So now we're just gonna automatically assume Chet's an all-star. I'm not gonna say he should automatically be an all-star. That's why I will say I personally would have put Kawhi Leonard in this game over Chet Holmgren. Now, you want to argue the Alperen Sengun versus Deni Avdija thing, and that's an argument that I'm very interested in because here's the thing. I think part of the Deni Avdija All-Star is exactly what you think it is, exactly what you were waiting on me to talk about, exactly what you were waiting on me to say. It is exactly that. The NBA is not even trying to hide it with that video they posted on Twitter of him meeting Adam Silver and everything. Part of this is because Netanyahu, that's all I'll say. And then also, we do got to look at this and recognize, okay, he's the best player on a team that, granted, they're just the 9 seed. They're just the 10 seed. So they're behind the Clippers, which to me is why Kawhi Leonard should be here. I think Kawhi Leonard has also just been a better player than Deni Avdija this season. And everything like that. But based on the body of work, I would give the All-Star to Sengun over Deni Avdija because I think with when we saw Sengun go down, we saw how important he was to that team. But at the same time, he is playing on a much better team than Deni Avdija is. But Deni Avdija's team is solid too. Like, we're not about to sit here and act like the Portland Trailblazers are just garbage. Like, they have nobody on that roster. Like, that roster is not that bad. It's not a great roster. It's not that bad. They just don't have like that 1A. I'll say you could argue for Deni Avdija. You could argue for Alperen Sengun. I would personally lean towards Alperen Sengun. Because just as somebody that's seen how important he is to the Rockets, and I also think he's a better player, I just a lot goes into me. I would personally pick Sengun, but if we go just based on the body of work, there's definitely an argument for Deni Avdija over Sengun, over LeBron, over Chet Holmgren. There's definitely an argument there. Like I said, LeBron's not going nowhere for me. Jamal Murray, KD, Anthony Edwards, Devin Booker aren't going nowhere for me. So if you want to, I would put Kawhi in over Chet and over Deni. To be real, I think Kawhi's been better than both of them this season, and I think he deserves the All-Star over both of them this season. And then Alperen Sengun, I would put him over Chet. I'm not 100% sure I'd put him over Deni. I'd have to look at both of their cases, probably a little bit closer. But I'm leaning towards Alperen Sengun over Deni. Those were the only snubs I could really think of. You could argue for like a Lauri Markkanen, but I don't really think Lauri Markkanen has a case over a Deni, has a case over a Chet, has a case. He could have a case over a Chet, but has a case over a Kawhi. I don't think he has a case over any of those guys, over an Alperen Sengun or anything like that. And then on the Eastern Conference, like I said, you could argue for maybe one of those guys in Orlando, depending on like the games played thing. And then you could also argue for. You could argue like who should it have been in Miami. You could argue for Brandon Ingram. You could argue for Brandon Ingram. I love y'all. I appreciate y'all. Thank you for watching as always. Please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe if you enjoyed the video and everything like that. Let me know what y'all think about the All-Star selections and everything like that. Keep God first, no matter what. All right, a lot going on in this world, but do not get discouraged because Jesus overcame the world. Did he not? Amen. All right, peace out. I love you.